Wario is a snitch.
Yeah, I got balls, of course I read. I got balls, won't you listen to me?
Hello, and welcome to The Author Has Thoughts. I am the author in question, Gary Ballard, author of 14 novels, something or other. There's going to be a video here that, maybe over here, that will tell you who I am, what this channel is about, if you don't already know. So go check that out, and then come back here. By now, you've all heard the tale of Luigi Mangione, the comically named tech bro assassin of the CEO for one of the world's most evil health insurance companies. If you haven't, congratulations for waking up from your coma that you've clearly been in for the last month or two. I'll recap just because the story is so full of stupid, sad, evil, and silly bullshit that I'd like to give my 2 cents on. So United Healthcare CEO was on his way to some kind of investor shareholder thingy, something rich folks do, in New York, some meeting, and he was gunned down, allegedly, by Luigi Mangione. By all accounts, Luigi was a mid-20-something graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. He worked in tech, was from an upper middle-class background, and as apparently most white guys are, was a fan of right-wing garbage merchants like Tucker Carlson and smooth-brain podcast host Joe Rogan. He very likely 3D printed a gun, carved deny, depose, and defend on some of the shell casings, walked up to Thompson in the street, and gunned him down before fucking off to Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was busted at a Mickey D's with some kind of 262-word manifesto because some dingus at that McDonald's snitched. Not gonna say who. First off, let me just state the obvious. I do not condone vigilante violence, or really any kind of violence. I'm just not a violent guy. I'm a peace-loving man. I also wish Thompson's wife and children no ill will whatsoever. As for Thompson himself, well, I'm sorry, I just can't be that sad about him. Knowing what I now know about how his company, under his watch, treated actual working people. In short, he treated them with disdain and contempt, as if they weren't worthy of healthcare, of being healthy and having a fulfilling life. I won't go into all of it, but United Healthcare, as a corporate person, is one evil collective sumbitch. They deny more of their customers' claims, this is paying customers, mind you, than any other insurance company. Basically, almost a third of the claims they deny from their customers, the people they are supposed to, in theory, serve. I want you to understand, these are claims that have to be paid either because the patient received treatment or they are making claims to keep the treatment that they've already received from making them bankrupt and homeless. You know, the American way. That dude, the dead guy, was worth personally something over $200 million, probably more, an amount of money that could sustain a middle-class family for at least 2 generations without ever having to earn one more penny. And that one dude was worth that. Because his company denied claims of people who paid for the service. Naturally, because it was a rich person that was killed, the NYPD pulled out all the jams to hunt this motherfucker down. They were all on Luigi, and the media could not get enough of the story until, of course, a little bit more was found out about his motives, right? There is a large segment of the normal mainstream media sources who are all ready to trumpet this guy, this CEO, as some kind of business paragon. And they're still trying hard to make a counter narrative to the real story here. That real story is how social media as a whole reacted to the shooting, regardless of racial component, political bent. What was the reaction? Glee, memes, jokes. Hell, Luigi himself became this kind of weird cyberpunk hero for a little bit, striking a blow for the working man. Keep in mind, this dude is not what I would call the working man. He was well off. The revelation that he was a fan of Tucker Carlson is just so fucking hilariously absurd to me. No matter their political bent, as I said, normal people of all political persuasions did not give a single solitary fuck about Brian Thompson. Instead, they were cheering on the loss of an egregiously extractive, rich asshole as a symptom of something vitally wrong in this country, with both the healthcare industry and capitalism as a whole. The mainstream media were ready to demonize the killer and lionize this slain CEO, as they typically do. But they suddenly had to reckon with the fact that a large portion of their potential audience were, at best, wildly ambivalent to this guy's death. At worst, they were celebrating it with cruel abandon. Many in the media have spent countless words writing think pieces about how, no, really, the rich CEO is the true working class hero, and how this is a symptom of the rough discourse that is killing America, as if it was a few bad words and bad language that was the problem. Few in the media have gotten it, and I feel much like I do that, I don't want to inflict violence on people at all. But I can damn sure understand the frustration Americans should rightly feel about the evil, extractive healthcare system in this country, which even with the laws in place that we have, manages to siphon up a large portion of our wealth while giving us demonstrably worse health outcomes than any developed country on the goddamn planet. If you have ever had to fight with an insurance company to get treatments your doctor, the one you chose, although frankly you may not have been able to choose them because they had to be in network, the doctor and you have to fight with your insurance company because they've said you need to have this treatment to either fucking live or to have enough relief to have a life worth living. If you've dealt with that, you won't give a solitary fuck about this guy. Because I guarantee you, he wouldn't give a single solitary fuck about you, and didn't, to his dying breath. The reactions from the CEO class have, of course, been swift and unfortunately predictable. Shock, horror, probably multiple calls to their security details asking for increased protections. And then there was whatever the fuck this is.
To those who think this shooter is a hero because he did it because he said this healthcare executive was presiding over a healthcare system which kills thousands of Americans by denying them cover, what would you say to them?
Oh boy.
It's I don't know what to say. I think I still think you should try to make an argument, and I think this is you should, there may be things wrong with our healthcare system, but you have to make an argument, and you have to try to find a way to convince people and change it by that. And this is not going to work.
Pete,
I don't know. Yeah. It's I mean, there are all sorts of things one could say about it, but I don't think, and I think I think the motives feel, I don't want to go into all the particulars here, but I don't think there's anything heroic about him.
God, that is it's just perfect. Now, if you don't know who Peter Thiel is, I highly recommend you watch or listen to the Behind the Bastards podcast talking about him. I know it's like over 4 hours long, but it really is worth a listen if you see that piece of video and think, how the fuck did you get that wrong? I'll go ahead and link it in the description. Short summary of Thiel is that he's a white dude who grew up at the very least upper middle class, if not slightly richer. He's of moderately high intelligence, and he started his post-college career being paid right-wing grifter welfare to piss and moan about college campuses being bastions of this radical liberal agenda. After that, he made his money falling ass backwards into lucky break investments. Seriously, his track record as an investment manager is really pretty hit or miss. He probably could have like flipped coins and shit and been just as good. Because he had money to back him, right? If you have money, you can make money. He was one of the investors in PayPal with Elon Musk. He was instrumental in getting Musk ousted from PayPal. So he did one thing right, I guess. He managed to make a profit selling his PayPal stock right before it went sky high, meteor, to the moon. And he has continued to make money because money gets more money in this country without having to really do much actual work or produce anything of value. One of his companies is called Palantir because all these assholes have some company called some form of a Tolkien thing. Palantir, if you don't know, is named after a very evil thing in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings series.
The power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron, Lord of the Earth.
The company itself is as evil as the name would suggest. It hoovers up all this data on people and sells it to other people for often very shady, yet somehow legal reasons. He's the asshole who funded J.D. Vance's rice, by the way, and he is what could be charitably called a monarchist or neo-monarchist. No, I'm not shitting you. He believes in what is, in essence, a monarchy. Really, it's more of an oligarchy of these various feudalist city-states run by corporate overlords, like himself, of course, wherein the corporate overlord's word is law. Now, if you happen to live in this corporate overlord's fiefdom by, dint of birth or accident or whatever, you are free to leave, and you're free to enter his domain from another domain if you end up not liking it, but free to and able to are two different things, as anyone who's ever, worked a job would know. You have to consider most of the people in his city-state system in his mind will be dirt-poor wage slaves with no capacity to move to a friendly city-state. Friendlier city-state. Again, if you think I'm kidding, read up on this dude. This billionaire is not your friend. Not that any of them are, really. The reason I linked the video clip, though, is because the answer he should have given is so obvious, I'm amazed he struggled with it in any way. There's no excuse for violence, regardless of how you feel about this man's corporate practices. That's a perfectly anodyne statement. Now, it would ignore all the mental violence this man's company inflicts on its customers every day, but again, capitalism. He couldn't do it, though. I'll tell you why he couldn't do it. He couldn't say that because he doesn't really believe it. He doesn't believe that violence isn't an answer. He firmly believes that violence is acceptable both to administer his city-state and to protect his and his corporate person's body from violence. The idea of running a city-state is absolutely that the state will have the capacity to commit violence to enforce its laws. That is how states work. Somewhere in that HGH-addled brain of his, he knows that he can't come out and say, well, violence isn't the answer, because he would 100% inflict violence on us all if it made him more money or more influence or power, which is all he really gives a shit about anyway. See, the guys like Thiel and Musk, especially those guys who are real big sci-fi fantasy nerds, they all have this fundamental misunderstanding of cyberpunk media, whether it be novels, movies, comic books, anime, whatever. Like most people, they want to see themselves as the hero of their own narrative. And the narcissism that naturally comes from having made $1 billion in some way, shape, or form forces them to perceive themselves as the good guy in whatever role they are in. I mean, you made $1 billion. How are you not doing something right? Right? Elon Musk pictures himself as fucking Tony Stark, when at best he's the goofy-ass Justin Hammer from the movie. And I mean the really goofy-ass one played by Sam Rockwell in Iron Man 2. He's just a clueless, thirsty, super divorced dipshit who started with a fortune from his dad's emerald mine and fell ass backwards into more money than God, bitching about taxes and regulation, while the only profits a lot of his companies have made are due to government subsidies, such as Tesla and carbon credits and SpaceX and all that government work that we're outsourcing from NASA instead of having NASA do it. They are the villains in the cyberpunk world. They are the character of Tyrell in Blade Runner, creating armies of slave workers whose lives are so expendable, they created an entire division of the police state to handle the workers who go off the reservation. Deep in their dark little hearts, somewhere in those cockles of their hearts, they wake up in a cold sweat at night, thinking of Tyrell's eyes going pop like grapes when Roy Batty gets his hands on them. Luigi, in this stretched analogy, he's also not exactly the cyberpunk hero or the protagonist. He's a replicant, just like all the rest of us. He's a worker whose individual worth is likely immaterial to the guys at the top. He's easily replaceable if they had their druthers with AI. And in a sense, he's also a replicant created by decades of right-wing propaganda, which has been funded by guys like Thiel and now Musk. His job as a replicant has been to vote for and support the information ecosystem that tricks working-class people into voting to give political and economic power to billionaires and their puppets by whatever means is necessary. And when those guys, those replicants, go off the reservation, the police are meant to remove them. So I guess NYPD in this analogy is the Blade Runner, the Decker. These plutocrats, these neo-monarchists, and the right-wing media's ecosystem says over and over again that a radical, communist, anti-capitalist agenda is underway, targeting wealth generation because they hate America or jealous of wealth. That the radical left is violent, extreme fascists. Yet the ones who continually perpetuate this type of violence, such as the January 6th crew, various mass shooters who target ethnic groups, they're not some radical left-winger, but one of their own right-wing flock. They want to evoke images of the Black Panther Party, forever stained as a violent, anti-white organization who wants to kill white people, rather than a group that ran free breakfast programs for children and free healthcare clinics for poor people. In doing so, the right-wing media continually encourages their right-wing followers to commit violence, espousing Second Amendment solutions to government tyranny, and suggests their followers arm themselves against the crime-ridden cities of this country. And you know they always mean the more ethnically diverse crime-ridden city. And when those armed, pissed off, mediocre white dudes finally start to see that corporate America is fucking them oh so hard, just as hard as everybody else, they become a pissed off dude with a gun fetish and a mind primed to commit violence against the ones they see hurting them. From there, it's a short, angry walk to a shareholders meeting in New York. The fundamental flaw in the right-wing media and these oligarchs' logic, other than seeing themselves as arbiters of morality and geniuses, obviously, is a misunderstanding of the cyberpunk genre. Cyberpunk doesn't have heroes. My characters in Cyberpunk 2077 playthroughs were nihilistic criminals. subsisting from crime to crime, hoping for a big score that will never come. The big score being something that will remove them from the power of these oligarchs. In my Bridge Chronicles series, Artemis Bridge is an absolutely terrible person, earning the nickname Amoral Bridge simply by being willing to get you whatever you want. Morality is irrelevant. Throughout the series, he has pangs of guilt that he pushes down, and he often only does something good for other people because he either feels he owes them or because it will piss off some corporation. Good people in Cyberpunk get victimized, rolled over, sold for spare parts, or used for experiments. Everybody's a villain depending on which side of the gun you're on. Cyberpunk generally lives in a world where all the backstops society has built up in the 20th century have been completely eroded by unchecked capitalism. Does that sound familiar? In short, it is the kind of hellscape that ghouls like Peter Thiel dream of, a world they will not hesitate to use violence to create and sustain. They just like to think they aren't inflicting violence because they only order it by remove. Someone else pulls the trigger. But just like United Healthcare and its denial of claims, they're inflicting violence. They shouldn't be surprised when people they hurt the most respond in violent kind. But there will be, because they can't possibly be the baddies now, can they? Extractive, unrestrained, crony capitalism is a societal evil, especially when it reimagines the wealthy as feudal lords in modern sci-fi trappings. That cool-ass, stylish cyberpunk future you imagine? It's a lot worse than you think for everyone involved. My name is Gary Ballard. These have been my thoughts. While you're here, hit the like button because you like this video so much. Click the subscribe button to be subscribed to my channel and be informed and notified. Click the bell too to be notified when I post a new video. You can see me on my socials. I'm on Blue Sky and I'm on Instagram. I gave up Twitter. Hit me up, check out my photos. I do a lot of photography on there, as well as, pimp my books out and all that. If you haven't read any of my cyberpunk or cosmic horror books, I've got links in the description to all my books, including the Bridge Chronicles series, which is the cyberpunk series I'm talking about. Keep your heads down out there. Shit's about to get crazy.
1, 2, 3, 4.